We, of course, have a special broadcast today, and this is to bring you a live wall-to-wall coverage of the funeral of the former Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, David Mabuza. And he will, of course, be laid to rest today at his farm in Barberton in Mpumalanga. And these are live visuals from outside the farm where the late former president will later today be buried. And of course, the official funeral proceedings will take place in Mbombela, and that's where we have our reporters Samkele Maseko, as well as Ntlantla Jele and Natasha Piri stationed. And we have Tumelo Machoho, and he is, of course, here, part of the team, bringing us the visuals on your screen now. This is where the former deputy president's remains were returned yesterday to the family, and of course will be moved from there to Mbombela, and then, of course, back later there for his final interment later today. And please, once again, take note, if you are traveling in that vicinity, there will be road closures that will come into effect at 7:30 a.m. this morning. Well, keeping with the proceedings today, a somber occasion, but also an occasion to speak to and celebrate the life of one of the great sons of the soil, David Didi, the cat, Mabuza. And I'm joined by SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena, just to talk about his legacy, Sophie. And it's been quite a week. We've heard quite a lot, but this is, of course, a man who is born, bred in Mpumalanga, and that's where he cut his political teeth.
Yes, indeed. His political life, he did a lot of work in Mpumalanga, where he was born. And then, of course, he only came to national after that conference where he supported the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and that slate emerging and him becoming then the deputy president of the Republic of South Africa. Then he had to work at national level as a deputy president, and of course the president giving him lots of assignment, as we saw, and he was involved on international matters, including local matters, as the chair of the SANAC AIDS Council, South African National AIDS Council, and therefore representing the country at international AIDS conferences. And therefore he was doing a lot of work both in the country and also outside the country, where he worked with the president of the Republic during that tenure, where he was deputy president, and the president being President Cyril Ramaphosa.
And during the COVID-19 pandemic, he was also tasked with the acquisition and rollout coordination of vaccines. As you remember what happened with African countries, so that continental effort and, COVAX, David Mabuza was quite instrumental in that.
Well, we know that the African Union appointed President Cyril Ramaphosa, actually, to lead the fight against COVID on the continent, including the acquisition of the COVID-19 medicine in terms of treatment when people have contracted the virus, but also the vaccines. And therefore, the deputy president then in the country would then assist the president to ensure that in the country that work is also being done. And the president playing a prominent role to engage the manufacturers of vaccines, and also to ensure that the African continent has got vaccines. We know that these developed countries at that time had spent lots of money buying vaccines, and it was difficult for the continent to get vaccines. And therefore, coming to the country, then he would assist the president, as it is the responsibility of the deputy president to assist the president. And the president always indicate after elections what will be the responsibility of the deputy. At times you'll add as time goes on when there are more other pressing issues, and therefore there was good synergy between the two, and that's where I actually having looked at the role of different deputy presidents of the country, you'll find that during his tenure, he was one deputy president who was given lots of work, both local and international. The same applied to, I remember, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka leading SANAC, and also at international level, but also lots of international work that she had to do. So with Didi, a similar scenario played itself. Yes, the Deputy President, Kgalema Motlanthe, during President Zuma's tenure, was also doing work at international level, but Didi had a lot of work to do international level also.
Speaking of his role as envoy to Juba, and we know the situation in South Sudan still continues to be a tenuous one, but Didi Mabuza, known, Sophie, as a very quiet, behind-the-scenes type of worker, but again stepping into the role as tasked.
You know that the AU actually appointed President Cyril Ramaphosa to be the chair of the high-level African panel to deal with situation in South Sudan. Because of the responsibility of the country, he then decided to appoint Didi Mabuza as an envoy on Sudan matters. And he did that work very well. And I think his character of being a person who's always calm did help, because President Salva Kiir and his deputy Riek Machar are difficult characters. And therefore, his character of being calm was able to reach better results or achieve better results, where we saw the two leaders coming together, forming an interim government, and an announcement was made in terms of the elections, which are supposed to be in 2026. But now, at this moment, there's been tension between the two. You can see that the work he was doing, he was able to manage that situation very well. And there was even hope after the announcement that the elections will be held in 2026. And I think it also has to do with, you'd recall, his involvement and his intervention to the conference of the ANC, where the ANC was very divided. People didn't know whether it will be President Ramaphosa or it will be the then Minister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. He came with that notion of unity, until the 11th hour, where he came and pushed his province with those large numbers that led to President Ramaphosa becoming the president of the ANC and later the president of the Republic. And you would recall even that time, he was insisting on unity. So that skill, he was able to deploy or utilize that skill and that approach during their standoff in South Sudan. And he was the very same person who came out clear to say the Polokwane outcome and how they handled themselves as leaders to be in factions, both factions, led to an ANC becoming more divided, and that has to be arrested now.
And who can forget that Nasrec conference in 2017? Because Didi Mabuza was up to the conference seen as backing the one faction, and by many seen as someone who sold out at the last minute, so to speak, in that conference when he did come and call for unity. But others, of course, have said that by doing what he did and throwing his weight behind the eventual winner then in that particular conference, who was the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, he actually saved South Africa in terms of helping the country to turn back and get on the right path, so to speak.
Unfortunately, there's a situation where women, when they contest elections, there are always, attempts to either say women are doing this because of such a male leader. So unfortunately, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, that was the current that she is contesting this position because of President Zuma. For a person like myself who has interacted with Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, I don't think it was based on the former President Jacob Zuma that much. Maybe Jacob Zuma took an advantage to support her. You would recall in Polokwane, she was part of a group that was on President Thabo Mbeki's side, challenging Kgalema Motlanthe, contesting the deputy president's position. She has always been a person who availed herself for difficult tasks. She lost in Polokwane, but she went back, she worked with the leadership that was elected. We saw her being deployed at the AU, coming back and all of that, just doing the work. But unfortunately, there was that current or that wave of pressure to say she is doing this because of the President Jacob Zuma. And people even went as far as using patriarchy statement to say the wife of so-and-so. So that really worked against her. And I think the other issue then for Didi Mabuza was that now that perhaps there's this whole noise, how do you ensure that the ANC going to elections, because during elections you need the entire country to vote. You don't rely on your party members. How do you ensure that you deal with these concerns? And then he supported President Ramaphosa. But I think one thing that political parties must learn or to accept or to deal with is women have a right to contest any position. They are capable. And this thing of labeling women, either you got the position because you are close to so-and-so as a manager at work, it's not based on your capability. I think it's something that women must really fight.
Indeed. And then, of course, one of the things that David Mabuza has said to have, concerned himself with is the fact that Mpumalanga, that used to be one of the strongest provinces for the ANC in the last general election, did not fare as well. So this is something that he was seized with after stepping out of office, because, and he reminded people that this used to be the second largest, bloc for the ANC, and that was slipping since he left.
Yes, I think the largest bloc was previously Eastern Cape. It lost that position, then it became KZN, Eastern Cape #2, and Mpumalanga and Limpopo, they're going to 4-3. But the 2017 conference, it had a large delegation. Now, losing elections last year, I think it was a very sore point for him. You'd recall that the elders or the veterans of the ANC had to step in when they realized that trouble was coming for the ANC. We saw Kgalema Motlanthe campaigning, Tokyo Skhole campaigning, and Didi Mabuza campaigning, even coming to Gauteng, Thabo Mbeki doing the same. And after that, as the First Deputy Secretary General of the ANC indicated in the week, he was willing to volunteer to try and go and work on the ground, particularly for the coming 2026 local government, having realized that even the province where he came from lost a number of votes there. So he was volunteering to go on the ground and to assist in mass mobilization again. And that speaks to who he was. And I think he was going to utilize the skills that he utilized to build the ANC bloc or the ANC province in Mpumalanga going to 2027, including, you would recall at some point in time, the very same different conferences where they were called the Premier League with other chairpersons of provinces. And later he would regret that, to say that structure was not supposed to be there because it was entrenching the divisions within the ANC. So he was quite a person who accepted where they made mistakes and trying to correct. But of course, There were lots of issues also on the provinces, allegations of corruption that we can't ignore.
Absolutely. And of course, as we bring you the special broadcast, we will talk more about this